But on the face of it, so living in London, how it came to be, I just got it got to a point where I was in a way sick and tired of seeing the faces of young black boys on the front page of the Evening Standard. So the Evening Standard is a paper in London, and very often these young black boys and young black men, they've been killed. And along that journey, I was also on my landmark journey, and I just thought to myself, I really want to make a difference here. I'm not okay with the way that this is. And I remember one of the final straws was the 17th of January 2017. I was on the train home from work. It was a cold day in London. Couldn't wait to get onto the underground for some warmth. Can you believe it? So I got on the underground and I saw this newspaper, and it was a 15-year-old who'd been killed in northwest London. And it just really cut me. And I just really felt to myself that I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay that this young life is just taken from us and completely lost.
Welcome to Landmark Difference Makers, where we interview people making a remarkable difference around the world. Get ready to be inspired. Let's jump in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Landmark Difference Makers. My name is Seamus Ford, and today we're going to be interviewing Ademola Adeyeba, who is the founder of 1000 Black Boys, a powerful initiative dedicated to mentoring, empowering, and uplifting young Black men. Through leadership training, mentorship, and community engagement, Ademola is shaping the future of these young men to have tools and confidence to thrive. Get ready for an inspiring conversation about possibility, purpose, and making a lasting impact. Welcome, Ademola.
Thank you for having me. Real pleasure to be here, and real pleasure to share our story on our journey with you.
Well, I think the first place to start is just how did this come to be?
Great question. So I'll answer it based on what I saw initially, and then actually after we do the work, looking back into my life and looking back to my upbringing, growing up in Nigeria, and then coming to the UK and seeing how all of that linked. But on the face of it, so living in London, how it came to be, I just got it got to a point where I was in a way sick and tired of seeing the faces of young black boys on the front page of the Evening Standard. So the Evening Standard is a paper in London, and very often these young black boys and young black men, they've been killed. And along that journey, I was also on my landmark journey, and I just thought to myself, I really want to make a difference here. I'm not okay with the way that this is. And I remember one of the final straws was the 17th of January 2017. I was on the train home from work. It was a cold day in London. Couldn't wait to get onto the underground for some warmth. Can you believe it? So I got on the underground and I saw this newspaper, and it was a 15-year-old who'd been killed in northwest London. And it just really cut me. And I just really felt to myself that I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay that this young life is just taken from us and completely lost. So that was there for me. And then really the final straw. And also, like, I'm a spiritual person, and I just felt like God was saying to me, like, you live in London, what are you gonna do about this? Almost a case of stop waiting for someone else to do something about what you're passionate about and about what you're here for. So get a move on. But I didn't action it right away because of my reasons and life and business and work and all of this stuff. But a very final straw, Seamus, was October 2018, 11:15 on a Thursday evening. I remember it. My sister calls me, my elder sister. She's Nigerian. She goes to me, "Are you sitting down?" I'm like, that's normally cue for, uh-oh, this is not good. So I sit down, and she says to me, "It's about your nephew." And I'm like, "Which nephew? I've got two." She goes, "You're like Stephen, that's my youngest nephew." And I'm thinking, what's happened to Stephen? She goes, "This boy in his school has been bullying him. And this boy said to him that you're going to die. And today he basically chased him." So my heart's beating fast. My blood is starting to, I'm getting quite angry. My blood is boiling and rising. And then she goes, "But don't worry, he got home safely today because he managed to hide in the shop while the boy that was trying to find it and went into one of their estates. And while the boy went into their estate, he crossed the road and he just happened to get his bus and got home safely that evening." So that really moved me. And I remember speaking to my nephew and I asked him, like, why did you run? Why were you running? I said, Uncle, I was afraid for my life. And I was thinking, Seamus, I thought to myself, you're 11 years old. And the boy that was chasing him was 12. And that was it. And even in that moment, I thought to myself, there's no point me being angry. I'd say the training from Landmark kicked in at this point, where rather than bringing my anger, my internal state to the show, having a go at the teachers the following day, I thought to myself, how can we transform this? What if I brought something different to this conversation? What if we offered this idea that I've got around providing coaching to the young people in their school and providing that kind of work with to them? Could that make a difference? So that was really the final straw. And pretty much, like I'll share it honestly. So that was October 2018. December 2018, I just started. I was a head coach on a self-expression leadership program. And he actually started on the 8th of December, 2018. And for us, 1,000 Black Boys started on that day. Because that was when I shared the vision in a room full of people. I got past my internal state. I got past what are people going to think if you just say 1,000 Black Boys. I got past all of that. And I just thought, let me share the possibility of what this is with people. So we say that we started on the 8th of December, 2018.
Well, the example that you shared of your nephew and the young man that you read about in the newspaper tells some of the story of the need for this project. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Absolutely. And what also, if it's okay, I'll also touch on is, where should I land this part? They're both so interconnected. When we were launching 1,000 Black Boys, there were the things that I saw. So I lived in Tottenham in North London. I saw the 2011 riot firsthand. And I came very close to getting involved in a riot, literally because it was on my high street. I was going to Asda. I think you guys in the US, it's Walmart. So imagine going to Walmart on my high street. And I'd say to people, it was like carnival without the music on the high street. And there was so much tension. What happened is that the day before, a Black man in that area in Tottenham had been shot by the police. So there was so much anger. And this rioting literally went on all night. And I was just looking at this chaos, almost like a car crash. I was thinking, wow. And then I got really angry. And I came so close picking up a stone and throwing it at the police, but I didn't, because I kind of thought to myself, well, you've got church at 11 o'clock in the morning. There's no point throwing stones at the police at 5 a.m. And then in the morning you're going to church. That's a bit hypocritical. So put the stone down and relax. So there's that experience. And then there's also things around the stats that we saw in terms of just teenage murders in London. It's a very unfortunate stat. I remember looking at this and really thinking, well, how will I make a case for what we do at 1,000 Black Boys? I know what I see. I know what we see. How can we explain it and articulate it in a way that people that don't see what we see would at least pay attention? I remember sitting down and doing this research, and for what we saw for a 5-year period from 2018, at the time was 2019 when we started to put the case together. But now for a 5-year period from 2018 to 2022, 70%, 70, of teenagers that have been killed in London were Black boys. And the population of Black men in London is around about 6.5%. So Black males were essentially there for 70% of teenage killings in London. That's one thing that's not okay. That's one thing that just shows us this is why we exist. This can be transformed. There's also the challenges to do with school exclusion rates in the UK, especially in London. The proportion of those that are excluded are predominantly Black boys, especially those of Caribbean background. They're 5 times more likely to be excluded, permanently excluded, than anybody else. So there's that. The police's attempt to tackle knife crime and youth violence in the UK, especially in London, from what we saw, one of the stats said that black boys were 19 times more likely to be stopped and searched by the police. So there's the problem, then there's the solution, but then the solution also causes trauma, causes problems. So there's all of this. And just aspiration for many that we saw was at an all-time low. And these are young people that are incredibly gifted, that are incredibly talented. So those are the things that we saw. And even more recently, especially after COVID, Seamus, mental health, the fastest growing group in terms of mental health challenges in the UK, especially in London, is young black people. And most of those are young black males. So those are some of the stats and some of the things that we see that just made us think we've got to do something about this. And actually also from my personal experience, maybe, yeah, I can share it now. I was born in Nigeria, came to London as a 9-year-old. And I was so excited to come to the UK. And I even share this because I had an uncle in Nigeria that said to me, the streets in London are paved with gold. I'm 9 years old. My brain is like, you mean what? Get me over there. And while they're not paying attention, I'm going to scrape some gold off and I'm going to go into business. And that wasn't what I experienced, of course. I was bullied for being the African kid in class with an African accent and an African name. In my early teens, attempted suicide twice. Fortunately, wasn't successful with my attempts. As a 17-year-old, ran away from home. I came so close to being stabbed on a bus outside of college in London. So there was all that experience. And then when I was 19, I got myself in the world of sales and business, and I saw that life could be different. So there was those experiences that at the time didn't make sense. But now with what we see today and with what we do today, I can see why that experience makes sense. And that's also a lived experience of why we do what we do.
Well, one of the things that is very striking is, there's a lot of similarities with the problem between the UK and the United States. Different origins, but I think for a lot of people that are achievers, people that are making things happen in the world, people that, kind of are making their own way, it sometimes is hard for them to understand how the circumstances that you outlined affect somebody's, we'll just say it this way, their view of what's possible.
Yeah.
And you're now right in the midst for the last, the last 7 years working with young people. How would you say the societal expectations impact these young men's expectations for themselves?
It impacts it massively. I also want to give you some examples. I mean, one of the boys that we've worked with at the time was 14 years old. And this boy, his mom, so when we launched one of our mentorship programs, which is actually a coaching program for young people and also for their parents, we have the parents sitting on the sessions. It's part of our strategy, like part of our model. I remember getting a call from this boy's mum at one point. I mean, literally from our first session, I could tell this is an entrepreneur. Just how he thought, how he communicated, the kind of questions that he asked. I could literally be talking about something here, and he'd find a way to bring that question back into his business. Like how to get an answer for his business. How can I work on my stock management? So I was thinking, this is an entrepreneur. And something happened with his school. I got a call from his mum. His mum said, look, Ademola, please speak with him. He's got detention today at school. He's had 3 strikes today. So I'm thinking, oh, what's he done? I'm like, you got 3 strikes. That's really bad. There he is. He's actually on that photo. The one furthest right doing that. Looking a bit like, what are you doing taking a photo? So him. So literally, I asked him like what happened. He said, well, one of my strikes is because I took off my tie in class. It was a really hot day, and I took off my tie because I was really hot. That was strike one. The second thing, Ademola, is because I spoke in class, so that was strike two. And then the third thing is because I was in science class, and somebody else needed my equipment more than I did, so I gave it to them, and that was strike three. So that's why I'm in detention. And I'm just there thinking, wow, what I could hear was number one was initiative, taking off your tie on a hot day. Number two was communication. We can work on how you communicated and when you did it, but that's communication. And number three is empathy. Someone needs something that you have, so you give it to them. And I just said to him, that's what we see, and those are the attributes of an entrepreneur. But the thing is, within the school system, that's not always how it's seen. So the perception is disruptive. The perception is doesn't pay attention in class. The perception is not going to make it anyway. And actually, a lot of young people, especially young Black boys, they get told things like they're not going to make it. And they're hearing this from authority figures and teachers. So it goes in and they believe it. And actually, also, honestly, it gets reinforced as well, can I say, in music. It gets reinforced with the friends that they might have around them. So they see that and they think that that's actually how the world is. And our job is to, can I say, break that and transform it. So that's one example I'd give.
The thing I hear really strongly is just the you get what you listen, what you're listening for with another person is so determinative.
Massively. And if I can also give you another one, actually. So when I was just testing out the idea of 1,000 Black boys, I've got a real passion for this. I can see it working, but let me just test it. Let me just do a proof of concept that what I see is actually what's going to be there in reality. And I remember speaking to my friend at the time. He was a head of year at a school in East London. And I said to him, give me your toughest, hardest to reach Black boys, the ones that the teachers really struggle with. Give them to me. I want to do a session with them. And he said, okay, cool. Like, is it a free session? I said, yeah, for this one, it's a free session. I was like, yep, they'll love that. The school would love that. So we arranged the session. I think like 6 boys came in. And I came in and someone slouched in their seats, someone sat up. And I did a session with them that I do with business people. And I would never forget this. These boys got it quicker than most business people I've ever worked with. One boy in particular got it quicker than anybody I've ever worked with. And he would have been about 14, 15. Literally, he was like, that's that, and that's that. End of story. And I thought to myself, wow, are you the ones that are hard to reach? You're not hard to reach. I mean, even that phrase, hard to reach, we call it not hard to reach, yet to be engaged. Because once they're engaged, who they really are shows up.
Well, I believe there's 5 pillars that you operate from with 1,000 Black boys. Can you share those with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can as well, what support our pillars support our mission. And actually, for those that are graduates, you can created this when I was on a self-expression leadership program. And it's the possibility of it. So we exist to inspire Black boys and young Black men to unleash their potential and to live a life of purpose. And we tell people that as that happens, every single person benefits. Nobody loses when the next incredible politician gets to realize the potential. Or we get to have more incredible Nelson Mandelas or more fantastic, inspirational human beings that get to transform our world. In that scenario, everyone wins. So that's our mission. And our 5 pillars, one of them is events. And with one of our events is around inspiration and empowerment. You can see some photos of those in the background. And they're really about giving the boys, the young men, their parents, really important. And actually what we also see is the parents bring the sisters along. So essentially the whole family get to see people that look like them. They're doing incredible things. And when they see that, just turns the lights on. So that's the that's the first branch of Pillar 1. And those events are really growing. We did more last year in person than we've ever done before. The second part of our Pillar 1, or the second branch, is also events for families that have lost children to knife crime and youth violence. We give these families a platform to be heard and a platform to speak. It's actually a part of their healing. People get to hear their true story, like what really happened, not what we heard in the news or what we heard or what we read in the papers. And those events are also designed to give the parents access to resources and also financial support. We have this event taking place next week, Saturday, in London. So that's one of our pillars. So it's an event, and the theme for that event is, let's see if we can hear the possibility of it: entrepreneurship and creativity unleashed. So we're showing the boys, the young men, and I always reference the parents, because for us, if the boys get it, but they go back into an environment that doesn't listen for that, it's going to crush it. And I was actually at a Scouts meeting recently. They invited me to their leadership meeting in January, like the Scouts. They're talking about how they can transform the organization. And the word that came out is, we want to put good seed into good soil. So with those events, the parents come along. Some of them think they're there for the boys. But after a while, they're like, oh, this is for me too. Like, yes, brilliant, you got it. So that event on the 22nd of March is all about that. It's about inspiration, empowerment. It's about entrepreneurship and creativity. And we have an incredible lineup of the most fantastic speakers. The youngest one is 18 and he's on his third business. And one of the other 18-year-olds is my co-host. And this boy, I can share this with you. I know it wasn't your question, but I think it gives that like a broader context. This co-host of mine, his mom contacted us in 2023. I got a phone call from a really concerned mom, really worried. And she said, look, listen, my son's been going through lots of challenges at school. He's been getting bullied. Sounds familiar. Actually, Ademola, he's also attempted suicide twice. Okay, sounds familiar. And actually, on his first attempt, he took some of his concoction to the school with him. And one of the teachers noticed him behaving in a very weird way. So they approached him, they searched his bag, and they found the bleach, all the different things that he made up. And guess what they did? They called the police on him for attempting suicide. And even for one of the things that happened when the police were interviewing him, they didn't tell his mum that the police were questioning her 17-year-old child, essentially. And short version, the mum then, she challenges the school and says, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. You should have done this in a much better way. Did the school say sorry and sort it out, or did they double down? What do you think? Double down. Double down, closed rank. They even tried to give him a criminal record. They took him to something called the CPS in the UK, which is the Crown Prosecution Service, to try and give this 17-year-old that needs help a criminal record to completely, in a way, finish him. And because his mum works within social services, they accuse her of neglecting her children, which is bad for work. So she has to tell work that I'm being investigated for this. So she has to take time off work for her mental health. It was a real mess. But short version, he came along to our first event in October 2023. And literally after, his mum brought him along. She's like, Ademola, talk to him. Here he is, talk to him. He kind of came in. By the time we were done, his mother was like, what have you done to my son? He's like a different person. He's talking to everyone. Like he's just different. Thank you so much. So we put him onto our third pillar, our family therapy service. And after a year, he now comes back and he's my co-host. So he co-hosts our events. Because what's in there for him, I mean, if I was to use a landmark terminology, when people get the stuff and they get the past at their future, and they can see that, wow, that's me. So they really show up. And for him, it was about inspiring other young people, being a famous interviewer and a famous broadcaster. So we encourage him to make that a reality. So that's pillar 1. Pillar 2 is our mentorship programs. We have 4 programs that deal with mindset. from our first one, mindset of growth, and our last one, mindset to excel, which is designed to put the boys and the young men in the industries and areas that they want to be in. So that's pillar 2. Pillar 3 is our family therapy and our family support service. Pillar 4 is our TV show. We got given a chance to launch a TV show in 2023. Didn't know how, but we went for it. And we're going to be putting that content onto our YouTube very, very shortly. That's pillar 4. Number 5 is not live yet, but we would love to set up or be part of a digital platform or directory that gives parents access to local services. There's so many great local services, Seamus. They're incredible at what they do, but their marketing is rubbish. So those that need them can't find them because they're not visible. If we can solve that, that deals with a lot of challenges. So those are our pillars. So events, mentorship programs, family therapy, TV show, and digital platform.
How many young men are currently working with you?
Really varies. So we've got our first, let me ask that question. Let's have a look at it. For our last event, which was in December, at that event, maybe about 60 people were there. Maybe 50% of those were young people. Maybe 40% were black boys, young black men. But literally, if I look at, we're still getting together our data from last year. If I look at our events last year, maybe we reached about 400 or 500 people with our in-person events. And at least half of those would have been young people.
Well, I mean, when you extrapolate what you're concerned for in that number of young people, that radiates into a really big impact on the future.
It does. And we're seeing that growth, and we're building capacity within our team. I'm trying to keep up. We have more demand than we can keep up with. To give a context, what really showed me that this wasn't just a project and it wasn't just something to do on weekends and evenings was in COVID in 2020. We couldn't do online events, so we couldn't do in-person events. And we were thinking, how on earth are we going to do this? How are we going to still fulfill on our mission when we can't do in-person events? So we took our events online. We had an organization that funded us to do one of our events online. And during 2020, we reached between 6,000 and 10,000 people. When I looked at it, and the reason why it's so broad is because the 6,000 is, if I take off 40% from my actual number, we get to about that number. And about 60% of those were 25 and under. And that's when I realized that this is not a side hustle. This is not just a project. This is a big deal, and certainly very needed. Oh, this is a young person, actually. He did our program in 2023. And similarly, like we see it, there'd be the perception, even how they perceive themselves and how they've been labeled, and it gets unraveled. So this is after the program. We did a 4-session program, not a long one, short program, and this is the feedback.
It's Brandon Mayer. I'm 15 years old. I'm in a project with 1,000 young black boys. I found the sessions very useful, and it helped me to realize that even though I'm black, I can still do many things that people of other races can do, and I'm just as good as other people, maybe even better. And that I've just learned a lot from it, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to be included in the sessions.
I'm Claudette. I'm Brandon's nan. I heard about this program from the BME platform, and it was on a Friday evening when I noticed it. And straight away, I sent an email and communicated with Elizabeth, because I could see that this program was really necessary for my grandson. And I could see that there were not many programs out there for young black boys. So I was so eager to get onto the program. So when I contacted Elizabeth, straight away she said, yes, you can get on. So that was a Friday. And by the Saturday, Brandon was on the program. And it was one of the best days of my life. And I haven't come down from cloud 9 after him being able to get onto it. And I can see the program where it's made him grown. He's grown in a positive way. He's able to think more positively. Just to say too, he went away on holiday and came back from Holland after 2 weeks, and he said, I want to be able to achieve becoming a sports coach, and to be able to do that, I need to pass my exams. And to be able to pass my exams, you need to get me a tutor. Oh, I was lost for words at that point, because it was normally me who's pushing him to say, you need to be able to do your revisions, and also we need to get you onto a tutor program. But he has become so confident after being on this program. I'm really chuffed, and I would just like to promote it in such a way that other parents will give it a chance and see the benefit that they will get for their Black boys or young Black men. And I'm very happy, and I really hope that it goes from strength to strength. And thank you very much. I would like to say thank you very much, 1,000 Black boys, for what you've done for my grandson and all the other Black boys that was here this evening in this program. Thank you.
Another mention. Thank you for the laptop, because my laptop was broken. It was glitching during the program the whole time. Thank you very much for the laptop.
When we took our program online, we saw that some of the boys had digital poverty. So maybe sometimes I'll be like, can you turn on your camera? Oh, in the chat, my camera's broken. Well, put on your mic. My mic is broken. So we had a couple of organizations at the time that donated to us their used laptops. So the boys that were on our program, we'd give them the laptops and they would just be lit up. But it allows them to grow.
You know, that can be intimidating. When you discuss, you create something to make a difference, and you discover the depth of the need, the depth of the requirement for it, and you already have a lot of responsibilities. You know, you run your own business. How do you deal with that?
Really great question. The best and most honest way I can answer it is, one is my faith. Massively helps with that. And not in a religious sense, but in a life-fulfilling sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is the training that I got on my landmark journey. So seeing that I can bring distinction to it. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of demand. My diary is really packed. Okay, so I can go to structure for fulfillment. Okay, so how do I plan my week? How do I plan my month? How do I plan my year? Where do we need to get to? So those things help. So being able to manage how I think about stuff, being able to, where needed, shift my perspective. So can I say how the world occurs to me?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to shift that and say, okay, well, rather than it being disempowering, it's actually empowering. So if it's empowering, what kind of actions can I take? What does that look like? Who can I get involved? So those things really help. So certainly my faith massively. Like I think about when I'm 70, when I'm not here anymore, for me, when I meet God, what does that look like? Have I done it well? Okay, so now the tools to do that, well, actually, I did this incredible training with Landmark, where that certainly helps me to put things into context. And also having people around me that can hold me to account. So seeing the importance of accountability.
That last thing you said, you know, I led the self-expression leadership program that you referred to for many years. And, you know, one of the things that I also hear is you're not operating as an individual in the face of this. You've built a community around you.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, you know, what is the conversation that you have with people where they see the opportunity of participating with you and making this possible?
The conversations, you first bring it like enrollment registration. The conversations are really around, hey, this can be different. Literally, this can be different. Can you see that person's potential? What do you mean? Well, actually, that's not a rude boy or gangster. In the US, you might say a thug. It's not that. This is an entrepreneur. imagine if that entrepreneur gets to realize the potential, how many more people would they impact? Oh, okay, great, I see it. So it's those kind of conversations. And also with people that might run other organizations or people that are in the space, in the way saying, hey, look, listen, how can we partner together? We're not here to compete with each other. How can we support each other and build that community so that everybody wins? So that everybody actually wins and everyone's what we're here for and our context is fulfilled. How can we do that together? So those are some of the conversations. There was also some conversations. I was at a networking event last week, and when I said 1,000 Black boys, and so we're like, oh, 1,000 Black boys, and things around, well, I don't really see race. I'm like, cool, I got it. Not making that wrong. But we see something that doesn't work, and we're here to fulfill on that commitment. So those conversations will also happen. And actually, since we're being honest, I remember when I first launched 1,000 Black boys, and I posted it on my LinkedIn. I had a former colleague that came at me and said, hey, you're racist. I'm like, how so? Let me just check. Am I racist? Let's have a look. No, I don't think I'm racist. What I'm saying is, I think if we could have more Nelson Mandela's, Martin Luther King's, more Anthony Joshua's, more people that are doing incredible things in the world, that's what inspires us. So that's what we're here for. So in the past, we've had those conversations where we needed to share the vision with people. And actually, those that get the vision, those that can get it will say, yes, we get it, we're on board, how can we support? Or, yeah, cool, good on you, well done. And then those that, what can I say, haven't really dealt with their stuff. I remember this gentleman that I actually used to work with that called me a racist. I said to him, let's have a conversation, let's get on the phone, and let me share our vision, let me share our mission with you. And he declined. So then I knew that he wasn't really interested in anything to do with our work.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that Landmark, we've been doing since the beginning of Landmark community forums, we call them. And, you know, basically what that is that anybody who wants to be able to bring our programs and specifically the Landmark Forum to a community, you know, we support people in doing that. And we've had forums for indigenous people in the US, Australia, and New Zealand. We've had forums for people that work in various fields like, you know, firefighters, law enforcement. And we regularly have in the US forums for people of African descent. And, you know, there have been times where people have reacted to that. And, you know, I accept that happens, and I accept that people see it the way that they see it. But, you know, having led the self-expression leadership program, you get to choose who you want to make a difference with. You get to choose your community. But I'm just wondering from your perspective, what you think somebody might be missing, like just not seeing, when they react to somebody, you know, specifically wanting to make a difference. And I'd ask you this: Black boys.
Really great question. One of the things I got from my journey at Landmark is being comfortable to have that conversation. And being okay with, if you don't see what I see, that's fine. But I see what I see. And we see what we see. And as we transform that, hopefully down the line, you'll also get to see it. And then your view will shift. What I'd say to people is, it's the realm of what you don't know, right? Mm-hmm. It's I'd say maybe there's different levels of people. If I can maybe put them into 3 categories as a broad categories. There'll be the people that you can speak with and they would shift their perspective. So those that I can say to them, okay, so for example, in the UK, football is a really big deal. You guys call it soccer. Pardon that, my pronunciation there. So England haven't won the World Cup since 1966, right? So for us, it'd be linking what we do to what's important to that person. And just saying to them, imagine if the next person that will get to help England to win the World Cup gets to fulfill their potential. Would you like that? Of course I would. Yes, that's what we're doing. What if the person that would have won the last major international tournaments for England, for example, got killed when they were 15 years old? We've heard some stories. So as a 15-year-old, his career got taken off track because he got stabbed or because he stabbed somebody. So he never gets to realize that potential. And you don't even know that that potential was lost. But you feel the impact of it without realizing it. We're saying we can transform that for you. Okay, I'm interested in that. Or what if we say to people that the next entrepreneurs, so for us, entrepreneurship is one of our key strands. What if the next tech billionaire that would create incredible things with AI that would transform so many lives, whether that's Black, white, Chinese, Indian, wherever they're from, if that person gets to realize that potential, every single person benefits. And how we language it is when the lives of young Black boys work, guess what? The lives of old white men work. The lives of young Black women work. The lives of old Asian men work. Basically, every single person benefits. And if that person's life doesn't work, everybody loses. I think the first category of people, they'd kind of get that. They'd be okay. And then we might have the ones on the other end who'd say, no, not interested. That's fine. Our conversation is not with you. Maybe down the line you get it, maybe you won't, but let's focus on what we're here for. And then there are those in the middle. Those in the middle who could go either way. And it's just being clear who we're speaking with and not being bogged down by those that are not really interested in our vision or our mission.
You know, one of the things you said a moment ago was you've trained yourself to have these kinds of conversations. And I think anybody who's listening to this, watching this, can relate to standing for something, you know, having a core value and feeling hesitant to have a conversation with somebody on behalf of that value. And you know, from your perspective, I'm wondering what you would say to somebody who, you know, knows that they really have a conversation to have with somebody. What would you say to them? I mean, I think it's really important because it's the only way we're going to have an impact on one another, a positive impact on one another, is if we really share what's important to us.
Great question, Seamus. It depends on where that person's coming from. But the main thing I'd say to the person is, if you're really up for making a difference and you don't, there'll come a point in life when you regret not having that conversation. When I was actually, because I apprenticed and I led one self-expression leadership program, there's a quote from a book about the top five regrets of the dying. The number one regret of people that are about to die is that they never lived a life almost like true to their commitments, that are more concerned about what other people are going to say. And I actually bought the book and I read all of it. And I share that with people. And I just let them know, look, listen, there will come a point when you're about to leave this earth realm and you're on your bed. What would you like to live? Like, what would you like to leave behind? What would that look like for you? Because in that moment, you'd be left with the regrets of the things that you didn't do and the conversations that you didn't have. And actually, that pain will be a lot more painful than having a conversation today. So have the conversation. And when I said it depends on the person's context, if I'm talking to somebody, for example, who's a Christian, I say, hey, snap out of it. I could be more direct with them. You're going to meet Jesus Christ one day. You're going to be there having not fulfilled your purpose. Wouldn't that be a waste? Imagine a car that wasn't really a car. Or imagine your mobile phone being used as your shoe. Or maybe use your hat as your jacket. It's just not fit for purpose. So use it for what it's there for, because that's what your life is there for. So we did our 4-session program over 5 weeks, and he just blossomed on that program. And one of his goals was to be able to speak in front of people as a public speaker. So picture the scene. He's 14 years old.
So this event has been useful because I've been able to inspire a lot of young people from what I've been saying and give very useful advice. And from all the speakers that have been up here, apart from me, I've been very inspired by them. And it was just very great to be here.
So that's one. So he's 14, apparently was shy. So on our program, he basically grew, and he just got to speak. I want to play a second one for you of the young person that was next to him. I'll play it for you and I'll give you the context afterwards.
So I found the event like really inspiring. So the other young black boys like me are just doing so many things. Like what's his name? Darian over here. He's just going far with his YouTube channel and doing things like that. And I feel like it inspires me to also do things like that, because I know that all young black boys, even any race, we're capable of a lot of things. And I feel like often with black people, they're undermined. Like often other people might get to shine for something that's not even like as good or anything like that. So I just thought that it really inspired me to see that so many people can do great things, and people of my color.
And the reason why I played that for you is, so the speaker there is the boy I was speaking, he was 9 years old. And the reason why I shared it is because at our events, I remember October 2023, Darian, the 14-year-old that was shy, he talks on stage and he absolutely smashes it. And I'm there hosting the event, and this boy, the 9-year-old, has his hand up for like 10, 15 minutes, that hand up. I'm taking no questions because we're out of time. But I just think to myself, I can't ignore you because your hand's been up for the last 15 minutes. So I then say, okay, all right, what's your name and how old are you? Hi, my name is, I'm 9 years old. And he says, you're all great, but you, points to our 14-year-old speaker, you inspire me. So here's a 14-year-old black boy inspiring a 9-year-old black boy. And they were so connected that they were sat next to each other. He didn't even know his name. They were just like, you inspire me.
And a number of the images that we've shown here in the interview, families are involved. And I'm wondering if there is a story you can share about the impact that this is not only having on young black men, but also on their families.
I mean, even one of the photos there, so the boy that I shared about, his mum for the event in 2023 brought the 7-year-old sister along. And by the time that event was done, if I can share with you, this 7-year-old gave us a testimonial. And so she could, her feet couldn't even touch the floor. She was just like that. Like, I'm so inspired. And the 7-year-old was talking about, I want to start a business. We were like, so that's just one of many examples when the sisters come along. So when the sisters come along, they just see that, I can articulate it. So for us, even though the landing point for us is black boys, young black men, but ultimately it's society. And we needed a place to land. So as we land with the black boys, young black men, then literally their sisters are impacted. The dads are impacted. The mums are impacted. But actually the teachers are impacted. So that's one that comes to mind, but there's countless others that we can share with you.
Well, I have 2 more questions that I want to ask before we conclude our conversation. You've talked about this growth that you're experiencing with 1,000 Black Boys, but if you look into the future, what is your vision for the future of 1,000 Black Boys, and what do you need?
Really great question. Even somebody posted something in response to my I shared this in some of our groups, and then this person said 1,000 Black Boys, 1 million Black Boys. Come on, let's go. It was like, let's go all over the world. So for us, the 1,000 speaks to multiplication and growth. Like there's increase. If I was to speak about that, what does it look like? what I can think about right now is a global movement that's literally in different places all over the world. And there is a transformation of what it is to be a young black male and a young black man and a young black boy. That the conversation's really around, well, in this part of where you're from in Chicago, in this part of Chicago, there are, I don't know, 10,000 young black men inspired by 1,000 black boys that are talking about, here is my 5-year financial forecast. Here is my investment portfolio. Here is how I'm looking to leverage AI. I'm now on my 3rd business. Here's my real estate goals. Here's my fitness goals. That's the conversation. That would be absolutely inspiring. Even just saying it right now, that would just be like, what? Amazing. And there's regular gatherings at different times where you can't even put them into a stadium because there's so many of them that are talking about inspirational stuff. And then there are those that are in our politics, those that are running our finances, those that are in fashion, in retail, in healthcare, in education, that are just being an absolute beacon of light to their generation and future generations.
And the second part of the question was, what do you need to fulfill that vision?
Really great question. Let's have a look. I think I was asked this question.
Or since we talked about the self-expression and leadership program, the whole idea of an unreasonable request, a bold kind of request that has you step outside of your comfort.
My bold request. Let's have a look. I'd say twofold. One is definitely financial, and the other one is resources. They're both interlinked. I look at that right now. If it was a bold request, I would love to have at least, this is a bold request, at least 10 major corporate organizations that would put at least £1 million into 1,000 black boys over the next 5 years. So that would be there. And what would that do for us? That would allow us to build our infrastructure. That would allow us to grow our team and to reach different incredible young people all over the world and form some of the most incredible partnerships, because we're clear that we're not here to do this all by ourselves. There's many great organizations that we would love to collaborate and partner with. To do that, we need resources. So the first one, the financial request, would allow us to fulfill on the second part, to fulfill on our mission. Maybe even that's too small, but yeah, but I'd definitely say right now, 10 major organizations putting £1 million towards 1,000 black boys over the next 5 years.
Well, that's certainly bold. The last question goes back to something that you articulated really beautifully. We like to ask everybody to consider, there'll be a time where 100 years from now, nobody's listening to this live is going to be around in all likelihood. And I'd like to just hear from you what you want people to say about you when your time is done.
Wow. The most honest way I can answer that would be that he did what God asked him to do. And he transformed the world. And he transformed so many lives. Like, have a look. Here it is. That things on the continent of Africa are completely different. Things in the United Kingdom are completely different. Things in the United States are totally different. Things in the in the Caribbean are different. Different parts of the world, there's a different view of what it is, of what people see, what what a black boy and a young black man can do. It's different. And actually also what the black community is capable of. And also what young people can do, that all of those things are completely transformed. That's what I see right now.
Yeah, it's really clear this isn't about you. This is about the impact that you're out to have. Well, I really thank you for taking the time to have this conversation. It's just straight up an inspiration to be with you and to just share this time with you.
And thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm grateful for it. Thank you for allowing me to share what we do with the world and share our heart with the world. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Landmark Difference Makers. If you're inspired by what you heard and you want to learn more about Landmark's programs or explore upcoming episodes, visit landmarkforumnews.com to find resources, event details, and more stories of people making extraordinary impact around the globe. If you are already a part of the Landmark community, check out the Landmark subscription, designed to provide ongoing support in creating a life you love. Visit landmarkworldwide.com to learn more. Until next time, keep creating, keep contributing, and keep making a difference.